Okay, so now we have the appropriate files, highlighting there. So we have the page 2 and page 3 MP3 files for the audio, for the spoken words. We have CSS files which are being generated by the SMIL program for page 2 and page 3. We have page 2 and 3 SMIL files, again from the SMIL Assist program. These give you the timings for the spoken words, the start and end time, and also reference the audio file and the page, so that when that page is displayed, the audio file is played for the particular times in the SMIL file. And then we have page 1, 2, and 3, page 1 because that's the cover for the Epub, and we also will have generated a cover for the Epub. How do we create an Epub from these files? The best way to do this is to create a copy of the sample Epub, which you get when you download the SMIL Assist. So this, create a copy and give it an appropriate name. So I'll call that poems, for example. And if I look in there, there are a number of files already in existence, and it also has the directory structure, which is very nice. These two files you don't need to change. Nobody needs to change this file. So we only have to change some files in the OEBPS directory, which is quite nice. So I'm going to get rid of the sample audio files and replace them with my audio files into the audio directory. I'll get rid of the CSS files and replace them with my two CSS files. I'll get rid of the cover and replace it with my cover into the image directory. And I'll get rid of the SMIL and XHTML files, leaving the talk. And notice I have one for the cover already, and I'll show you that briefly. There we go. And if I show you the cover entry, which is page 1, remember? No SMIL because there are no spoken words for page 1. And there we have. So effectively it's a copy of any of the other XHTML, but between the body I simply have that frame referencing in the images directory my image pg1.png. The width is of course the full width of the viewport. I don't have an alt, and it's a good idea to place an alt there because when programs are used which read alt of an image for people with eyesight problems, it will read what's in the alt quotes, and here it would be cov pg1.png, which obviously is of no interest. So you may put something like sample read aloud Epub cover page with image of speaker, let's say. So then a program is reading that, it will read, one way around, read aloud Epub cover page with image. It will read what's in the alternate because they can't obviously easily or at all see the image. And you should do that with every image in a book, whether it's read aloud or not. Put an appropriate alt, maybe to describe the image, so 3 people, or one of which is reading a newspaper. Now that I have what I believe are all the files in the correct position and directory structure for an Epub, are there any more changes that I need to make before you can create an Epub? Yes, there are. The first change you need to make is with the content.opf file. There are a number of changes you might need to make, and they will all be, between this block here, or in this block here, the metadata. So you may put the author's name here, which we'll call lots of authors, for instance. It's English. The title will be Poems. Yes, and there are a number of changes you might want to make. Edgar Allan Poe would be subject, as with Shakespeare. And you can see these are effectively correct because they're from the sample. You don't need to do that change there, but just for formatting, I've made that change. So the description / description are on the same line. Publisher is 14, etc., etc. Unique identifier. So you make any changes and additions that you want to make to the metadata. You have a page 1, 2, and 3. So if there are any additional entries, you delete them. Page 1, 2, and 3 is correct because page 1 does not have any SMIL, i.e. read aloud content, because it's simply a cover page. So it doesn't have these entries for media overlay. But page 2 and 3 must have a media overlay because those pages have a read aloud content. So for example, if you had a page 4, which was simply a map and therefore had no read aloud content, it would look very much like the intro of page 1. Except you would edit these for 5, of course. And there would be no media overlay. I'm going to take that away. You have CX, a TOC file, which is a table of contents, so that can be left. You have a CSS for page 1, 2, and 3. Now, strictly speaking, you don't need a CSS for page 1 because it's simply an image, and you have no need for a CSS for that particular image. Although for other images in the book you may, so I can delete that. The cover is PG1 PNG, correct. I have an audio for just page 2 and 3. And I have a SMIL file just for pages 2 and 3. And I have a TOC NCX for page 1, 2, and 3. And this tells the system where the cover page is, page 1, and where the text starts, in this case page 2. One thing to note when you're creating this, that this media overlay reference, in this case page 2 underscore SMIL, must match the entry for that particular page, page 2 underscore SMIL. Likewise, 3 and 3. Now, any other changes might be required in one other file, I believe is all we need, and that's the toc.ncx file. Table of contents. Now here, this UID needs to match the one in content.opf. This is text for the title is Poems, author. Now, the one thing you must note is that between the tags of navmap and /navmap, you need to create a play order, and these have to be sequential. They can't be 1, 7, 5. It has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. This table of contents will appear when you select table of contents with the Epub. And this is a text which will show, because obviously you're not going to say page 7, you'd like to say some appropriate text which is meaningful. So cover is correct for page 1, but for page 2, maybe Shakespeare. And for page 3, Edgar Allan Poe. Let's put Poe here. Now, if we just look at one of these in detail, at that point, this is the block. These again are sequential, 1, 2, 3, play order 1, 2, 3. So the only thing you're changing here really is the text that goes for that particular chapter or marked section. Obviously you don't need one for every page, you just need one where you're breaking up the section. So normally this would be chapters. Chapter 1 would be a possible text here. And then the SRC would be, well, where is that text? In my case, Edgar Allan Poe refers to pg3.xhtml. So TLC done, we believe. So I'm going to quit that. So, okay, so now I need to create an EPUB. First and foremost, you should check your EPUB before you create it. Epub Checker, .app version if you're running on a Mac, or .exe if you're running on Windows. It's exactly the same program, just bundled differently. And all you need to do is to drag your EPUB directory top level onto that panel. Now you can see we've got errors. Now this error effectively appears twice, talking about the media overlay. Remember that was to do with the read aloud section. Will always occur one line for every page which has a read aloud entry. It's unfortunate, and if anyone finds an Epub Checker which supports the read aloud functions without creating errors, I'd be happy to receive an email. Also, you get again a pair of errors talking about this element sent not allowed, specifying this error. But again, this is unfortunately expected. So you will obtain a pair of errors such as this and a pair of errors such as this. So you get one of these errors per read aloud page and one of these errors per read aloud page. So you have to simply ignore them. So we're expecting these 4 errors. What we're not expecting is this error. Oh, that's interesting. Page 1 XHTML. Now, if I look at this page 1.xhtml, and if I look at this, page 1 CSS reference resources missing in the package. So what I've got here is a reference to in directory CSS page 1.css. And if I look here in the CSS directory, I don't have a page 1.css. And this is because, as it's simply an image which is covering the whole page, I don't need any CSS entries for it. So I could create a dummy blank CSS file, I guess, but it's probably more appropriate simply to delete the reference to that CSS file, such as that. Now, as that was the only error, I'm hoping, well, the only error which is not read aloud associated, if I now drop that top level directory again, then we found just a pair of errors we're expecting like this, and a pair of errors like this we're expecting. That was one pair for page 2, and one pair for page 3. So now we've checked the Epub directory structure and the contents of the files, and everything seemed okay as we're ignoring the read aloud errors. How do I create the Epub? Well, all you have to do is simply drop the top level directory onto the Epub zip app if you're on a Mac, which you will have obtained with the SMIL download, and let go. You will have created the Epub. You can't do a standard zip or use standard zip software. Now, I have what I now believe is a valid poems.epub. How do I check it? If I just double click on this system, I have an Epub reader, but you can see that the cover, Shakespeare and Poe are shown in the table of contents. They're from the top.ncx. There you go. But this program doesn't have read aloud capability. This Epub has been created for the iBooks software only. So on a Windows machine, you would have to download that to your iPad or iPhone possibly, and you would then be able to read the book with the read aloud facility. Fortunately, with Maverick's operating system, that's currently the latest version from Apple, it does have iBooks installed. So I'm going to run iBooks and simply drop my Epub there, and you can see that the icon there is the cover page, and if I double click, again cover page, if I go to the contents, you can see Shakespeare and Poe, which remember were from the talk.ncx file. And if I move to the next page, there is my, at the moment, quite boringly formatted text. But the good news is, if I go to the top, I can see a volume control. I can start reading.
All the world's a stage.
Remember that yellowing colour is being generated from the CSS for this particular page.
They have their exits and their entrances.
And because I've specified sentences for this page, it's highlighting the whole sentence. If I now let it play on,
his act's been 7 ages. It was many.
And here you can see that we deleted some entries from the SMIL file for the Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. So it doesn't play any text, it doesn't play any sound from this text, and starts with it. And because we specified per word, it's highlighting each word. So on Windows 8 system, again it's a virtual system, which is why you have a Mac backdrop, but this is the Desktop Explorer. I'm going to first of all check with the Epub Checker, and so what I do is simply run this on Windows, drag my poems directory onto the pane, and as with the Mac, I will end up with 2 errors per page. So on my document, I'm demonstrating 3 pages, but only pages 2 and 3 have read aloud SMIL entries. So for each page 2 and 3, I'll end up with 2 errors, i.e. a pair of errors per page. So this is error for page 2, error for page 3, and then another error type for page 2, and the same error type for page 3. So assuming they're the only errors, everything's fine. I now need to create an EPUB from my poem directory. Let's go to the desktop. What I need to do is, in the poems directory, I need to create selected only the MIME type. I need to create a zip file. So I'm going to send to a compressed folder, which I'll call poem. And I need to move this poem directory to the desktop. Here it is. And I also need to delete the one that's within the Epub directory. I absolutely have to do that. Okay. Now I'm going to take the rest of the document and I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it into the zip file on my desktop. So if I simply paste that, so if I now open the poem zip, you see everything is in there that was in the original document. Remember, in the poems directory, I must get rid of that original zip that I created. So the final thing I need to do, and if I haven't already, I should go to View and turn the file name extensions on. So check that. I need to rename this Epub. Yes, it'll complain, but I really do want to change it. If I now go to my iBooks reader, or alternatively you can put this right onto your iPad, I simply drag the Epub I've just created to iBooks. Here it is. Click. Turn the SMIL reader on.
All the world's a stage, about many and many.
There you go.